I joined the Million Veteran Program in order to ensure that veterans like myself get the absolute best care possible.
I joined the MVP program to help medical advancements for veterans that look like me.
To ensure that no veteran ever had to die from an unknown disease.
I joined MVP because I still want to be part of something bigger than myself.
To help advance and improve the care for veterans today and in the future, which very well could be my children's.
Might not help me, might not help my friends, but it'll help the next generation.
My why for MVP is every veteran.
You are our why.
You are our why. The veterans are our why.
You are our why.
To each and every veteran in MVP, you are our why.
Please visit Exceptional Parent Magazine and sign up for free at epmagazine.com to get your free monthly magazine with a new U.S. military section. Also, please make sure to visit Exceptional Parent Mag on Facebook and EPMZINE on X or Instagram.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubuzoo Network. You can find out more on hubuzoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asek of Asek Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, all veteran-owned businesses, Bone Frog Warrior, Caisson Shaving Company, Black Cat Designs, and Savage American Woodwork. It's Christmas time. It's December. We're counting down to the end of the year. And my theme for this year has been, look, I am realizing just how much I don't know. And so I had this wonderful opportunity, thank you, Jeff Pierce with Wreaths Across America Radio, to talk with the executive director of Wreaths Across America, Karen Worcester. Welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Thanks for having me, Travis. Excited to be here.
This is great. It's in December. We're getting into Christmas time. And I got introduced to Wreaths Across America, Karen, in Tennessee. It was a small little place in Columbia, Tennessee called the Boondocks, and it was in the Boondocks. And these people had come with the Tennessee chapter of Wreaths Across America to set up a table and explain to people what it was all about. And it was very interesting because I didn't know who they were. I didn't understand the whole thing. And then later, a veteran comes up to me and says, what's the big deal with a wreath? What's the big deal? The person's dead. They're not there anymore. I mean, they could spend that money and time on other things. So right out of the gate, I really didn't understand why he was saying that. But I think it's, key if you can explain what Wreaths Across America Radio is and why the wreath's needed.
So the wreath is, I call it the catalyst. And how it all started was with my family. Back in 1992, my family had always been in the balsam business. We did wreaths for mail order catalogs and had since the 70s. And we're very grateful for everything that we've been given. My husband is not a veteran. He's in college or in Vietnam. And so we had a surplus of wreaths. And with something that we had, we wanted to do something meaningful for our kids. So my husband got the idea. He had been to Arlington. He won a trip there as a paper boy when he was 12. It was a very long time ago. But he remembered Arlington. It just stuck in his mind even as a kid, because it was vast and it was beautiful and what it represented. And so he got it in his head that maybe he could take these wreaths and the kids and go to Arlington and place them on the graves. And it would be a thank you. Just a thank you from our family to those people buried there, and an opportunity to show our kids, And so we contacted a local politician way back then and could not believe it. Within like 24, 48 hours, we had permission to take these wreaths to Arlington. So we loaded up the truck, just like the Beverly Hillbillies, and never been there, they got a local trucking company, the Bluebird Ranch, said, we'll haul them shore. And my husband took a couple of the kids, met a couple of volunteers, I think there were like maybe 10, 12 people there to help. And they went to Arlington and they put them in section 27, which is the oldest section of the cemetery. And right then, the superintendent at the time told my husband, this is because this cemetery is Civil War section. People don't come here to visit anymore so much. They come to visit people they know, or they might be a tour group, but nobody ever takes the real time to look at this individual sacrifice. So he chose that section. And so as the group started unpacking these wreaths and placing the wreaths, they couldn't help but say the names. You just couldn't. It just, out of reverence, you stand there and you put the wreath, kids and everybody, they were just saying these names. And it took them all day to do it. And it just really was an experience to be there in the cemetery and to actually take that few minutes to say the name of that individual that they were honoring. So when they got home, they talked about it for days. It looked beautiful, but then they'd remember a name and then they'd try to find out something about the name. And so we just loved what it did for us and for our kids. And we said, we're going to make this a family tradition. So as long as they let us, we're going back. So every year after that, we made the wreaths special. Threw a couple kids in the car, the truck went down, and they'd place them quick and be done and come home. Always saying the names and learning and our way to say thank you. And it wasn't until 2005 when the wreaths were placed, and the Pentagon photographer happened to be there in the cemetery for a funeral. And he took a picture of the wreaths all laid, and it had snowed, so it was beautiful, and put it on their website, and it went viral. And it just blew up. And everybody, now my husband, he's old, and he has, it's all right, Travis, he knows he's old. And so he has an email, a company email, but he never used it. And all of a sudden he had 4,000 to 6,000 emails and phone calls. And people are, he's the secretary and I were looking through these emails. Is this true? Because we wanted to help and we want to do this. And so we started really listening to what these people were saying. And I was introduced to Gold Star mothers through these emails, and veterans and active duty military. We'd have people call our offices that were serving somewhere in the South Pacific and wanted to know if it was true because they had a buddy that was buried at Arlington, And so it kind of changed our perception of what laying these wreaths could actually do. And it was through that in 2005 that we said, okay, they want us to remember, but they want us to honor those that are still serving. But the most important thing we heard was teach kids about service and sacrifice. So as we went forward and things started to really grow, and people say, how did you ever do it? We didn't really do it. It was the volunteers and the people that wanted this to happen. You could not make this happen if people weren't driving it themselves. So we developed that as a mission to remember, honor, teach. And by 2007, the demand for people to participate was so great that we formed a 501c3. And ever since then, being very true to that mission, and making sure that we're doing the other pieces. We have Wreath Radio. Wreath Radio just got a nod from the VA because we're bringing podcasts in that help VSOs, that help other people in need. When we put together the plan to help pay for the individual wreaths, we came up with that $5 back program so that we could work with other VSOs to help them put money back into local communities to help with veterans' needs and other community causes. So we work with groups as big as Gary Sinise Foundation and as small as somebody trying to raise money for a service dog and somebody in their community. And through that program, every $17 sponsorship not only fuels our education programs and everything else we do, but $5 goes back into local communities. And to date, we've put $22 million back into other veterans' causes. So it's all very much about local communities bringing themselves together to honor the veterans that are buried, to remember the veterans that are buried, to honor the military in their community, to get behind families who might be separated over the holidays and the dad or the mom serving. And most importantly, through the stories of the men and women that have served, to teach kids about freedom and responsibility for freedom and love of country through the stories of the individuals. So we have a joke around here that we do all these other things and we place wreaths. But if you place the wreath and said the name, it all comes together.
Now, one thing you mentioned is that you have talked with and via email and phone Gold Star mothers. As a wife and mother yourself, what's that like when a mother reaches out who's lost, her son or daughter to you for comfort and memory of that child who's lost?
Well, I remember it very clearly because I kind of got pushed from being wife and grandmother and all that into my volunteer position here. They like to pay, they're getting what they pay for. But I remember the first time we had it, because now we have this convoy that we do, which is another whole story, and we had a group of Gold Star mothers, and there were like 5 or 6 of them that were coming to make the whole convoy for the week with us. And I had talked to them on the phone, some of them, I'd never met them in person. And it was later in the evening, I literally was in this makeshift office in a warehouse, and these women come bounding in. They'd been picked up at the airport, and I was really worried what I was going to say to them. And they came through the door and they just embraced me and they said, I'm so-and-so, and my son is so-and-so, and my daughter's so-and-so, and oh, how many kids do you have? And all of a sudden it was just like a bunch of women talking about their kids, and they talk about their kids and ask me about my kids. And we talked for quite a while, and it was quite late in the evening. And I remember them going, and then I had to go get my car to drive home. So it was cold and dark, and I got partway home. It was only like 3 miles home. I had to pull over because I was sobbing so hard. Here's what dawned on me very early. Those women are no different than me. Not a bit. Didn't want the position they were in, loved their kids. Some of them said to me, I wish I'd gotten a grandchild from my son before he died. I wish we had had that. They want us to talk about them. They want to share them. They wanted to have that conversation with me. I could go home and call my kids. They couldn't. So they're sharing their kids' stories, not about their death, but about what they did in their life, about what motivated them to sign up, about who they were and the person, the impact they made in life. They want to talk about their lives. And honestly, it's as comforting for me to talk with them as it is for me to listen to them. It is. And that's what they need to be. Can you imagine how I go to Section 60 every year after the wreaths are laid? Section 60, as you know, there are a lot of the more current burials there. So it's not unusual to go to Section 60 and see a family with little kids sitting on a grave, spending time with dad, and especially during the holidays. So when you go there, and they're so grateful that you're there, like a week out from Christmas, taking time to come there and walk by their dad's grave, their husband's grave, and just say, we got your back. I don't know. They're the most incredible people in the world. These moms who have buried a child will tell you 9 times out of 10 that their kid died doing what they loved and loved their country with passion that I can't even imagine. If they can do that, I can do anything. At the very least I can do is to remember, honor, and teach.
So the wreath's not just, pine. I mean,
not a decoration.
It's not decoration. Thank you. It's not decoration. It's a memory in time of that person's legacy.
It really is. And we have some fantastic corporate sponsors, but the bulk, by far the biggest piece of what we do is we take a wreath for a loved one and place it on a grave when they can't be there. We do that so often. You take Arlington National Cemetery, those people buried there from all over the country. And we hear that all the time. I'll never forget early on in the process, there was one of the news channels, we had laid the wreaths, and they showed the picture on the news, and they said, oh, the wreaths are laid at Arlington Cemetery. And they went from this vast picture of all the wreaths into focus on one name, one wreath, just a random wreath. And about 2 weeks later, we got a call, and this woman was sobbing. And she said, in that video piece, that was my dad's grave. And she said, I have to tell you that my sisters and I had not spoken to each other since my dad died. And when we saw that, we all called each other right away. And she said, we're coming together as a family again to place a wreath on that headstone. And I can't tell you how many stories we've heard like that. because that's what it's all about. It's like looking at the vastness of sacrifice. We're honing in on the sacrifice of each individual. And you know what? I got to feel like that guy's up in heaven, giving a smile down at Wreaths Across America to bring his family back together. We hear stories all the time. It's so much more than a wreath. It's an opportunity for people to put everything else aside and come back to what we can agree on. And that's the bravery and sacrifice of people who served.
So this started off in the Arlington National Cemetery, but it's nationwide now. When I talk to those worldwide, excuse me. Yeah. When I talk to those individuals in Columbia, Tennessee, they were very proud of the mission that they were doing and talked about the other chapters around them. So how did it go from being in Arlington to this worldwide, tradition now?
I don't know. No, that's a little bit flip, but it's like I said, when that went viral on the Pentagon website, people wanted to do the same thing for their local veterans. And so we now, I just can't believe it, but we're 4,100 locations this year. 4,100 locations. And every one of 4,100 locations, Travis, has a volunteer. They pull it together. They say, okay, we're going to go in the cemetery. We're going to take the names of all of our veterans. We're going to go door to door, and we're going to say, would you help us honor this person? And they put the ceremonies together. We give them guidelines because we want to remain non-political. We want to be all inclusive. We're not a specific religion. This is all about men and women served. We don't care about the conflict. We care about the individual and the sacrifice. But these people do the work. They really do. And we have an incredible, through social media, we have an incredible team, and they support each other. So we have our front-facing Facebook and those things, but then we have closed groups where they support each other. And we can, right now, the other thing that we do, I'm very proud of, and we did this from the beginning, is we decided if we're going to have this mission, we need to work with other people that have a like-minded mission. So we will share, not only we share dollars with these people, but we will share our airway with these people. We want, if there are services that can help a veteran or help a family or teach a child, we will share those services. And so that has served us very well. So now we have many large organizations that are coming to us to use our hyper-local media. So we put out press releases, don't get me wrong, but if we have a message that's important or something that we want to get across or something we want people to work on, we'll reach out to 4,100 location leaders. They're everywhere, and they're boots on the ground for us. We'll write a template. This is what's happening. Add the people from your community and put it out in your local paper. And that's how it grows, because it's a national thing, but it's very much personal in each local community. We kind of just, honestly, we get a lot of credit, but we just kind of keep our arms around the whole thing. It's like, it's crazy.
Well, it's amazing. I live in Massachusetts, and there's a group that goes down to the Bourne National Cemetery to do, the wreaths. And, it doesn't matter if it's 5 degrees below zero and 3 feet of snow on the ground. There's 200 people going through making that happen. And then it's January, February, I can't remember which, they have the call to take the wreaths up, and it can be, absolutely New England worst weather. They're out there doing that. And that means something to people. What do you think it means to that person as they're going through in all kinds of weather, whether it's here or, in California or Arizona doing this?
I can only speak to what it means to me. Sure. And I'll tell you, I love cleanup, because I'm working up into getting all those wreaths laid and doing that whole logistics piece of it is kind of crazy town for me. But I always go back to Arlington to clean up, because it's time that I can walk through at a different pace and pick up a wreath and, pick up an armful of wreaths and the same thing, like you say, people will come out, Boy Scouts will come out, and they'll bring broom handles, and there'll be one kid on one end, and they'll put the wreaths on, and they just come together. And I don't know, it's an honor for me to walk among the graves at Arlington National Cemetery. It's an honor for me to be there with the Goldstaff families that go back to clean these wreaths up, and it gets me in touch with my privilege that I have to be an American who lives free. And I think we all need to be reminded of that. I think we're living in a time where everybody's very quick to say, well, I have this freedom and I have this right. But with freedom comes responsibility. And nothing is more of an eye-opener of what that responsibility is when people are in that circumstance. And I think people like that. I think they like being there to show their respect and also to be there with other people that feel the same.
So one thing that I get asked a lot, let's put the Wreaths aside just for a second and focus on like leadership and your role, is I have a lot of women who ask me how they can add value to a veteran or, serve veterans. And the reason they ask me this is they're like, hey, I didn't serve. I don't know, anything about marching or, aircraft. I don't know anything about that, but I love my country. I love those that, served our country, and I want to help, but I don't know how, and I feel very out of place. And you've carved out your place in your service. So what would you tell a woman who is thinking about doing that, has the ability to lead, but not sure how to get started, Karen?
Again, you give me way too much credit. I was just a mother and a grandmother wanting to do something to show my kids, to show my appreciation, to show my kids. And I think if I've learned anything is to listen. Just listen. People will tell you what they need. People will tell you what their needs are. And I think to do that. And then I think if you can't, if you try to do something and you're listening and it's not something you feel you can do, well, maybe you know somebody else. Don't be afraid to bring other people in. We're all in it together. And I think as long as you're willing to be on a team, it doesn't matter who's leading the team. I don't think that's important, who's leading the team. I know military-wise and all that, somebody's got to have the final say. But if you don't know, you don't know. So surround yourself with people that know and listen. And if it's meant to be, it will happen for you. But pick something that you're passionate about. Don't try to put yourself a square peg in a round hole. For me, the passion is about my kids, my grandkids. And I have so much respect for women who bury their children. That's why I want the next generation to know. So I just say follow your heart and don't be afraid that you can't do it, because if you do anything, you set your mind to.
Well, this started with your children and you got to see them go through this journey. Now, what's it like as a grandmother watching your grandchildren, kind of take up the wreath and place it? What's that like when you watch that happen after you've done this for so long?
It always touches me to see a family at a grave explaining to kids, and it's very personal. I don't know what they're saying. I'm sure they're talking about this person's service. And for me, watching kids, we have, and I mentioned the teach piece that we do, but several years ago, we wanted to really expand the teach mission. And so we have a Ghost Town mom, Cindy Tatum, amazing story with this family. Cindy was notified on Christmas morning that her son had died in an accident. She retired from teaching, and I took her aside. I said, Cindy, help me with this curriculum. And so we now have the most incredible curriculum. It's free to everybody. It's based around what we feel are the characteristics of the men and women of the United States military. And it talks about courage and character and responsibility and sacrifice, all of the things that as a Marine, the things. And so watching that go out in a form that can be used at public school or private school, and to be out there for free. And Cindy's other thing that she did that I'm so proud of, following how we work at Wreaths Across America, was to bring other organizations in. So we do our teach curriculum in conjunction with the Medal of Honor Society, with the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War, with the Ike Eisenhower Foundation, Random Acts of Kindness Foundation, people that several more, that Cindy goes out and they have something to teach kids that fits in that overview of teaching them to be good citizens and take responsibility, and weave that into curriculum. And that is being downloaded at an incredible rate right now. So for me, it's not, they're all my kids, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm that woman. I bond with kids in the grocery store. So I think for me, it's not just seeing my own kids, my own grandkids, but to see kids, see the lights go on when they understand and when they make a connection with a veteran and they get it, so to speak, and see it, like I say, through that curriculum it's amazing. People should look at that at wreathsacrossamerica.org. It's all free downloadable.
Well, I'll have that link in the Oscar Mike Radio Show post, but follow up to the question about children. Sometimes I'm told, well, kids are not plugged in, they're not engaged, they don't really care. And I've seen examples where that's the opposite. Don't you think it's incumbent on us adults to train the kind of children we want and not just let them, they have to find their own way, right? But we have a responsibility, right?
Yeah. And I think kids have to have responsibility too. I don't know if I mentioned this, but one of my mentors is Roger Donlin, who is he was the first Medal of Honor recipient in the Vietnam War, and he got his medal back then. So he's had it for a long time, and he's very respected all over the country, and he's traveled and he's spoken, and he actually loves the Wreaths Across America teach piece. And I asked him a couple of years ago, I said, Roger, what's the most important thing that Wreaths Across America can do as an organization? He didn't bat an eye. He said, we need to teach the next generation to love our country again. They need to understand that our country is the greatest country on earth. And that the reason that it is because of sacrifice. That people actually, it boggles my mind that, everybody has their hierarchy, whether it's God and family and country or God or whatever. But this group of people that laid down their lives put me ahead of all of that. And they went and died for me. And the least we can do is make these kids pay attention to that. So don't get up in my grill and tell me you have a right to do this and you have a right to do that. Because if you don't have the responsibility of honoring those people and loving this country, then I don't want to hear it. That with freedom comes responsibility. And our responsibility, yes, to be all inclusive, yes, to do all those things, yes, to be understanding and tolerant, but we have to protect our country. That's what makes it special, is because everybody has rights here and everybody is treated equally here, but it's because of the men and women that served. So we owe it to ourselves. And the most important thing we can do is absolutely teach the next generation.
And said better myself. Tell me about the convoy. You mentioned the convoy. Now, how does that work with what you do around this time of year?
It is completely crazy. And just to give you an idea, I want to give you a logistics thing.
Okay.
So we will do probably a little over 3 million wreaths this year at 4,100 locations. But as I sit here today, probably 60% of our sponsorships have not come in yet. So the week of Thanksgiving, the bulk of this stuff will come through either mail or our computers. We don't know where the wreaths are going because they haven't been sponsored yet. Now, our job is to get those into our system, to get them all sorted out where they're going, and then to round up about 800 trucks to be in Maine, to get loaded up with them, and to head out and get them all delivered so they can be placed on the graves on the 16th of December. That is a logistics nightmare that we could not do, by the way. Plug here, we could not do Wreaths Across America without the trucking industry. More than 90% of the deliveries that are made to these cemeteries are in volunteer trucks, either by owner operators or large corporations or somebody that's just got 1 or 2 trucks, and they pilgrimage to Maine in the snow and come and load these wreaths up, and they get them there on time. That is amazing. That is dedication. It really is. And now we have, we actually have like hub spots. They don't call them hub spots. They're going to look at after, what do they call them? Cross docks. So we have several cross docks so that some of these wreaths have gone on volunteer rails already to go out. So there'll be stations so they can be delivered to California. The logistics piece, the volunteerism from the trucking industry to help with that is off the charts. And we're kind of a small organization. This time of year, we bulk up to, 50 people or so working, but the volunteers, the people are giving. I love that the trucking industry is giving what they can give. The Tyson Foods, They come to Maine. We have a little that founding company, Worcester Wreath Company, put like a truckers lounge together for all these trucks coming in. And then Tyson Foods comes up here in the middle of nowhere, because we are in the middle of nowhere. And they will, over the next few weeks, do over 2,500 meals for these drivers coming in from all over the country. And I call it the little drummer boy effect, because everybody from our local people to the national level, they're giving what they have to give. It's wonderful to see people come together. It is a logistical nightmare, though. I'm not gonna lie.
You all could give Amazon a run for their money if you can get different trucking companies, people, and it all happens. That's what Columbia, told me. Like we get our wreaths on time, ready to go. They're packaged up every year without fail.
Well, now don't jinx us, because I will say that we have our non-delivery rate is less than 1%, because sometimes things happen. Like sometimes there's a storm or, something that happens, but they do a really good job. And, people are kind, and we teach people, if your wreaths don't get there, it's really not a good thing, but you can still go to the cemetery. You can still have your, a ceremony, and then come back and do it another time. Once in a while, something happens. People are good. As long as you give good information, people are good. And we have a group, we call them our liaisons and we've broken the country up into like 6 sections, and we train them year round. We're in communication with them year round, because most of them work the whole program. So they're out in the community doing things like we do so many other programs. Like we teach flag etiquette and how important it is to wave the flag. Every Tuesday morning we go on live and bring people together to salute the flag with us. So we stay in communication with these people year round, and that really helps, so that if something does go wrong, it doesn't feel like a personal attack. It feels like, well, there you go. It's like having Thanksgiving dinner. Something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to fight with somebody, but you're still a family, and you bring it on back together. And, we need to do that as a country. Can I just say that? We got to get a little less sensitive and come together. Before COVID, a couple of years before COVID, I was at Arlington, because my husband and I always go to that. It's just a tradition. He's been there 32 years, will be this year. We were standing up on the Women's Memorial. They're right at the entrance to Arlington. And we watched, they stopped counting volunteers that day at 90,000 people.
What?
90,000 people came to Arlington to place wreaths. And I remember I stood there with the tears running down my face, because all I could think was, in that crowd, there's Democrats and Republicans, there's Christians, Jews, atheists. Yeah, there's all kinds of people coming in here, and they were walking in, talking. They stood in line behind these trucks for sometimes a half, 3/4 of an hour, maybe more, to get one wreath, so that they could go to the grave, probably of somebody they didn't know, and place a wreath. And the relationships that are formed in those lines is amazing. Some woman might be there with their Boy Scouts because she wants them to, or the Girl Scouts, and they get behind a Gold Star mother in the line, and they get a real lesson that day,
They do.
And it's just amazing. And it's emulated at all 4,100 locations. It just feels good. It feels right. It's very emotional. And I'll tell you, my husband, this is the kind of man my husband is. 2 years ago, this December, so our convoy lasts for a week. And so it was the day before our convoy was supposed to leave. And there were a lot of guests here, a lot of people that were here to be on the convoy. So we were having a breakfast. And at that breakfast, my husband had a stroke. And he was paralyzed. He was paralyzed for 24 hours. And we're out in the middle of nowhere, so couldn't get an ambulance. And there was some LEOs there. They rushed us to the hospital. Had to move him to another bigger hospital because of his condition and all that. And he was so upset that he's trying to talk, and he said, "You got to go on the convoy. You got to do this. You got to do this." And he goes, "I can't miss this convoy. I've got to get on the convoy." My daughter's a doctor. She lives down in the DC area, and she flew up immediately. And I got to tell you, it was talking about a God wink. So this happened on a Saturday. By Tuesday, he had full mobility. He had no damage that they could see, but they were still hesitant to see him. It turned out it was exhaustion, dehydration, and a bunch of stuff and all that. Anyway, he was so determined that he was going to make it to Arlington that the doctors agreed that if my daughter doctor would ride with him, he couldn't fly, they wouldn't let him fly. So she gets in the car with me, and we had a driver so she could tend my husband. He's a funny part of the story. We left the hospital to head to Arlington. We stopped at the first Walmart we came to, and my daughter ran in and bought him a cane. And it was this hideous big cane because he needed it because he was very crippled up. Had a great big tag on it. It was about 5 by 8. And he got it, and he goes, we're not taking that tag off because I'm not going to put enough miles on it, and I'm returning it. Anyway, we got him down there, and the night before we go to Arlington, we always have like a big rally, like 700-800 people. And that man walked in there on his own steam that night. And he went to Arlington the next day, and General Milley actually met him at the gate.
Okay.
But he said as long as he can get there, he'll be there. So it means a lot to him, and it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to other people. It becomes a tradition that you want to continue to be part of. It just really does. Part of who you are, I guess, once you start doing it.
What you've done it for a long time, but I always wonder what's next for you all. Do you have, is it just getting better at doing it? Is there a different, focus you're going to, look at doing next year? Is there anything that's next, or is it just continuing to this tradition that impacts so many people?
Well, I think that, again, I fall back to the teach. I think that it wouldn't be what it is if we just decorated graves. You know what I mean? It's the whole package. It's the whole teaching people. And, examples like, I don't know how many times I've gotten a note or something that, the Vietnam veteran down the road that everybody thought was so eccentric. And now that they're engrossed in this and they're starting to learn more, they look at that veteran in a different light. And so as an example, how we're expanding our teach mission with our radio station, what we realized, I have a theme every year, and this year's theme is Serve and Succeed. And the reason we chose that theme is because as we're talking to teachers and we're talking to families, and they said, think about this. You turn on the TV and kids are watching TV, and what do they see veterans represented as? They see wounded warriors, people in need of homes, and we have to do that as a country and even our organization, because we're always going to support the needs of those veterans who have issues, who have needs. But what they don't see are the vast majority of veterans like yourself who take your service and use it to succeed and to give back to the country. So Serve and Succeed has been one of the most popular things that we've done, as we've taken people and shown kids that there is a career, that there are skills. And yes, even people who have PTSD, there is hope that you can control it and continue to have successful lives. And there is a great skill set out there. There's a great opportunity for employers to have people that have skills that include responsibility and understanding. So trying to change that narrative for me is very important in teaching. So that's how this year we expanded. And we're always looking to broaden that horizon. Somebody told me once that to make it work, we have to make the 99% understand the 1%. And it's less than 1%. I'm sure you know that this year they grossly missed the mark in their recruitment numbers. And that's not a good place to be. And it's because we don't teach kids. We teach them how to be strong and to stand up for their rights, but we've never taught them to be proud and to fight for their rights in a way that involves putting their life on the line.
You've mentioned the radio station, and may I say, Karen, it is, when I got approached about coming on Wreaths Across America Radio as Oscar Mike Radio, I was very, surprised, humbled, and honored at the same time. And I want to thank you for having that avenue available to people like myself. But how did the Wreaths Across America Radio get started? And, what are you trying to do with that radio station?
Well, I think it's kind of evolved. I think originally when we started it, we wanted some patriotic music, and we wanted to share some stories and do some interviews. And I have a show called Mission Matters, where I will interview Gold Star mothers and veterans and different people to just share the stories. But it's been about a year and a half ago, I sat down, Jeff Pierce, came on, and he's fantastic. And he has such a good understanding, of who our audience is. And we made the decision that we wanted to be a voice for the American veteran. And we wanted to be a station where no matter what your need is as a veteran or a military family, that you could turn our radio station on and somewhere somebody's going to touch on something that's going to help you or enrich your life. And so it was when we made that change that it just really started coming together for us. And so people are listening at much bigger numbers, and we're being invited everywhere. We're super excited. We're going to be at the National Cathedral the first of the year, and people who are having different events, like we go to like the Gold Star Mothers Convention, we broadcast from there, and we've been at the Medal of Honor Society's meetings, and they bring us in and we broadcast live from those events, and we share their stories because they have areas of need too. They're giving information, but they also have areas of need. So I think it's when we made that change to make sure that, again, listen, I don't know what every veteran's needs are, but if I shut up, they'll tell me. And I think you learn a lot more by keeping your mouth shut than you do by doing what I do, spouting off. So.
All kidding aside, I have learned a whole lot in our time together, and kind of winding this down, nothing happens from nothing, right? It takes something to make something happen. How can people help you all keep this mission going up, providing these wreaths and placing them on the graves if they want to get started?
Well, if you go to wreathsacrossamerica.org, you can volunteer. You can go to locations. Like I said, there's 4,100 locations. You can search them by state. You can just pull up a map. It will tell you. You can go to click on any location, sign up to volunteer. You can sponsor a wreath from those location pages, or you can just go to the general market pages, or you can just sponsor from the front page. And remember, $17 doesn't just place a wreath. It does support these other parts of our mission that are so important and really having a lot of outreach. And if you're struggling right now, it's close to Christmas and you're thinking about what to do, one of the most popular things that we see now is that, and it's very, it makes good sense dollar-wise too, because if you sponsor a wreath for a family, we'll send either a hard card or an email and say to this family that, happy holidays, a wreath will be placed on your behalf on a veteran's grave, and this is where the ceremony is, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they'll go place a wreath themselves, but it becomes a beautiful tradition, and you can give the same gift over and over, and they'll give it again, because we've seen that happen. But it gives them something besides just the next best toy for a kid. It gives them a real connection. It's an opportunity to teach, and you can take that kid by the hand and you can teach them whatever you want. I don't care what your politics are or anything like that. As long as you take them to that graveside and you tell them that the reason you're even having this conversation is because of the people that we're honoring.
Well, I think during this time of holiday, giving and cheer, there is this aspect of truly giving. And the holidays can be hard for so many people, but I found personally that if I give during this time, it can make certain things much easier to go through and deal with, and it's more meaningful. So, Karen, I just want to say thank you for coming on and talking with me. You are truly Oscar Mike. Oscar Mike in the military means we're on mission or on the move, and I just appreciate the time you've taken with me today. I want to thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for helping me promote this. It's important.
Absolutely. No problem for great Americans like yourself. Hey, folks, I'm going to have all the links to, Karen's show and Wreaths Across America and Wreaths Across America Radio in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. I want to give a big shout out to Jeff Pierce, who, got this relationship going. Thank you, Jeff. Merry Christmas. We say Merry Christmas here, Karen. And, it's a really great organization to be a part of. So you got the information, you have your mission focus, you can pick up a wreath and lay it at a grave and make a change in your life and meet some great people. Karen, thank you again.
Thank you, Travis.
Join us on National Wreaths Across America Day, December 16th, 2023. Each December on National Wreaths Across America Day, our mission to remember, honor, and teach is carried out by coordinating wreath-laying ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, as well as more than 3,700 additional locations in all 50 states, at sea and abroad. Join us by sponsoring a veteran's wreath at a cemetery near you, volunteering, or donating to a local sponsor group.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 998 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.